Hey everybody! Good afternoon. Almost right here at noon, coming at you from Pandemic Pittsburgh or Corona Coriopolis, however you want to call it. This is where I'm coming from with long hair and all. Welcome to Midday with Mark, day number 30. Woo-hoo! Day number 30. Yes, I said it, day number 30. I thought about dressing up today like a costume or something, but I don't know where all our costumes are around here. Like, I could have found something that the kids have worn, some part I could put on my head or something like that would have made it fun. But today is day 30. Welcome, 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 welcome. If you're watching this live or you're watching this on replay, welcome to Midday with Mark number 30. That's crazy. It's number 30. So here we go. Because it's number 30, got a couple special treats for you today. And you know what you should do? Share this with somebody. Share it with somebody. If you haven't, maybe somebody needs a little something during the middle of the day. There are people watching from Maine. There are people watching from California. I have some friends from Florida watching. Mike Basic is watching across the river in Leetsdale. So he's not very far away. So I got some special things for you today. On day 30, first of all, we got to get out of the way. But I want you to receive it all. Take a deep breath. Everybody calm down. Take a deep breath and soak in on day 30 the Christmas cheer. This is going to be the last day for the Christmas tree. I know Megan Y will be celebrating, but this will be the last day for the Christmas tree. So soak it all in, soak it in, feel the Christmas love. Unless I get some kind of uproar where you guys are like, no, you can't get rid of the Christmas tree. But as of today, that's going to be the last time you see the Christmas tree. All right, unless I get some kind of uprising that says, no way. So something special though, because it is day 30. Every day I do a pop of the day. If I'm here, I do a pop of the day. So I thought I'd give you a little special treat today, which I'm going to show you my favorite pop. It's my most prized possession as we celebrate 1 month of pandemic Pittsburgh, Corona, Coriopolis, where I'm at. As we celebrate 30 days of doing this, hopefully this is going to be lifted soon and we can go back to semi-normal. It's not going to be normal for a while, but so I thought I'd show you my favorite pop. And then I also have another piece of memorabilia that I collect that's also one of my favorites in my collection. All right, so here we go. Favorite pop that I own. Some of you aren't going to even know what this is, but it's special to me. It's one of my favorites. It probably is my favorite of all the pops I own. So here we go. You ready? So this is the robot from Lost in Space. I grew up watching this show, Lost in Space, and this is, see if you can see it, the robot from Lost in Space. Danger, Will Robinson. Danger, 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 Will Robinson. So this is probably my favorite pop. This is the one I'm most proud of. So here he is. Here he is, Lost in Space. Any of you chime in? Do you remember Lost in Space? Do you remember this show? Did you watch this show? Was it part of your life? Just respond. I'd love to hear from you. But that's my favorite pop. All right. So my other piece of memorabilia today I want to show you that's also my favorite. Takes me back to my childhood. It's one of my favorites. Sits on my mantle. And that is the Mach 5. So this is Speed Racer. How many of you grew up watching Speed Racer? But this is the Mach 5. Oh, love this piece of memorabilia. Love the Mach 5. Check that out. How cool is that? So there is the Mach 5 that Speed Racer drove. I thought it was the coolest thing as a kid. So one of my favorite pieces of memorabilia, the Mach 5. Who remembers the Mach 5? Yeah, you should. It's awesome. So there you go on the special 30th day. Thought I'd share with you some of my favorite pieces of my collection on day 30. So taking you back to my childhood, Lost in Space, and Lost in Space, and Lost in Space was the bomb. It was Lost in Space and Speed Racer, two of my favorite things. So we're gonna pull a book off the shelf. You guys always ask about the books on the shelf, so we're gonna pull a book off the shelf today, and the book for today is I'm also picking one of my favorite all-time authors today. So one of my favorite all-time authors is a guy named Gary Thomas. He's written a bunch of books like Sacred Marriage, different things like that. This book is called The Beautiful Fight. It's written a while ago. I've had this book for a long time. I think it's 2007. So this book is 13 years old, called The Beautiful Fight. If you've never read anything by Gary Thomas, excellent writer. Gary Thomas is a very good writer. And this is what he writes in a chapter called Aching for Experience in The Beautiful Fight. All right. So he writes this. Where am I? Let's see. Okay, here we go. He says, Charles Spurgeon wrote about this issue many years ago. We cannot force truth on men, but we can make our teaching clear and decided and make our lives consistent with our words. Truth and holiness are the surest antidotes to error and unrighteousness. Then he talks about this guy, Rodney Stark. He's a sociologist, okay? So Rodney Stark's not a believer. He's a sociologist, but he wrote this. A sociologist reminds us that typically people do not seek a faith. Get that? Typically people do not seek a faith. They encounter one through their ties to other people who already accept this faith. So that's a good word, right? So most people are not on out there seeking a faith, but what happens is they encounter it and they run into people who have a faith and it impacts their life. And he talks about this, how it became true, and I think this is so important for us, that around AD 260, right around AD 260, there was a pandemic in the Roman Empire that wiped out a large percentage of the population. I just saw a thing on this. Like pandemics throughout the years. It was pretty interesting. But what happened was when the pandemic came through the Roman Empire, the Christians act differently than everybody else. Okay. So here, Dionysius, the bishop of Alexandria at the time, he wrote it this way. So remember, this is about 260 AD. Okay. So about 230 years after Jesus rose and back from the dead and ascended, he wrote this during the pandemic. He wrote, most of our brother Christians showed unbounded love and loyalty, never sparing themselves and thinking only of one another. Heedless of danger, they took charge of the sick, attending to their every need and ministering to them in Christ, and with them departed this life serenely happy. So get this. So they took care of those who were dying. Okay, so the Christians took care of those who were dying during the pandemic, and many of them died. For they were infected by others with the disease, drawing on themselves the sickness of their neighbors, and cheerfully, listen to this, and cheerfully accepting their pains. Many in nursing and curing others transferred their death to themselves and died in their stead. The best of our brothers lost their lives in this manner. So get this. This is the Christians. The Christians took care of the sick during the pandemic, even to the cost of their own lives. There's a lot of people in the healthcare industry doing that right now, and it's pretty remarkable. But back during this pandemic, the Christians did that even for people who weren't believers. They did it for their pagan friends, their relatives. And then he says this, contrast this with the way those who were not Christ followers responded. Here's how they responded. The heathen behaved in the very opposite way. At the first onset of the disease, they pushed the sufferers away and fled from their dearest, throwing them into the roads before they were dead and treating unburied corpses as dirt. hoping thereby to avert the spread and contagion of the fatal disease. And so they tell you that in the middle of the pandemic, those who had no faith, those who were not part of the Christian faith at the time, abandoned their very own mothers, fathers, children, neighbors, friends, and ran for the hills. But the Christians stayed. And really big shout out to all those who are staying right now and working with people who are sick. We've been trying to support those people through our Feed the Healers ministry. But I think that comes from the beautiful fight. Just a reminder of that most people are not out there looking for a faith, but what they do is they run into somebody with faith, and it changes their life. So let's get into Nehemiah. Here we go. Nehemiah, a few minutes in Nehemiah today. This is Nehemiah part 7. I'm not going to do a big recap, just to let you know that Nehemiah is rebuilding a wall. And we talked about how we're going to have to rebuild after this. And Nehemiah gives us some great lessons about rebuilding or tackling anything as a project or our spiritual growth or whatever it is we're trying to build. So Nehemiah had built the wall to halfway back up. And we talked about how the walls of the city are their protection and their pride. And when your protection is torn down and your pride, and the gates and the walls are your protection and your pride, when those things are torn down, well, how do you rebuild them? So Nehemiah sets out, rebuilds halfway, and we talked about how you get in halfway in anything and you kind of hit the messy middle. When you hit that messy middle, people will bail. People get discouraged. They can't see the end. And so they're lost in the middle. And a lot of people get lost in the middle. And so Nehemiah did some really cool things to move beyond that. So today I want to talk to you about finishing well. So we're about to see Nehemiah finish the wall. And I want you to see what happens towards the end. Okay, when you're running your race, no matter what this is, like if you are taking care of people right now, and you know there's going to be a day when this calms down, or all of us, there's going to be a day when we go back to somewhat normal. You got to finish well, okay? And then here's what happens in chapter 6, if you follow along in your Bible, with Nehemiah. So it is titled in the NIV, Further Opposition to Rebuilding the Wall. So he goes on like this. When word came to Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, those are the bad guys of the story. Those are the axis of evil in this story, okay? They are against what Nehemiah is trying to do, okay? It says, when they heard, and the rest of our enemies, that I had rebuilt the wall, and not a gap was left in it. So get this, he has rebuilt the wall. Last time we looked at, we were halfway. He has now rebuilt the wall, okay? There's not a gap in it. Remember, pride and protection. We're protection mostly by the walls. Though up to that time, I had not set the doors in the gates. Okay, so the gates are still not done. The wall is built, gates are not done. So the thing's not done, but it's almost done. It's almost over. He's almost accomplished his mission. Okay? Sanballat and Geshem sent me this message. Come, let us meet together in one of the villages on the plains of Ono. But they were scheming to harm me. So I sent messengers to them with this reply. I am carrying on a great project and cannot go down. I love Nehemiah. Cannot go down. Why should the work stop while I leave it and go down to you? 4 times they sent me the same message, and each time I gave them the same answer. So get this. When you get towards the end, the distractions come and the opposition ramps up. So the opposition knows that they could lose. And so the opposition is going to ramp up its attacks against you. And this is what happens here. Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem, they ramp it up, man. They send 5 letters trying to get Nehemiah out of and off his work and out to them because they are scheming against him. So whatever you're doing in your life, especially for God, if you are moving forward, if you are watching God work in your life and grow you, the opposition will ramp it up especially if they see you getting to a place where, man, you actually might become mature in your faith. You might actually do some great things for God. I mean, the opposition is going to ramp up. I can remember as a student pastor, I can remember, watching God work in the lives of kids, and then the opposition would come against them. Some of them wanted to go into the ministry, and then I remember just even well-meaning parents, because remember we said a couple times ago that opposition can even come from well-meaning people. I remember this sitting down with this one guy telling me that his son needed to cool down all the Jesus stuff. I mean, it wasn't like this kid was crazy. It was just this dad didn't want him getting too excited about all this Jesus stuff. And so the opposition is going to come. The opposition is going to come when you're almost to the end. Then it says the fifth time, Sanballat sent his aide to me with the same message. Okay? And here's what was written in the message. It is reported among the nations, and Geshem says it is true, that you and the Jews are plotting to revolt, and therefore you are building the wall. Moreover, according to these reports, you are about to become their king, and have even appointed prophets to make this proclamation about you in Jerusalem. There is a king in Judah. Now the report will get back to the king. So come, let us meet together. And so listen to this. They play a political game. That never happens today, right? Nah. People are trying to do something good and politics get in the way. Never happens. Man, I mean, we're so much more sophisticated and mature than these people. We are so enlightened. We are so much more enlightened than they are. Oh, come on. We're just like this. And so Sanballat, Tobiah, and Geshem play a political game and say something that Nehemiah is not even doing. They lie. They say, you just want to be king. You've just rebuilt this because you want to be the king. You've only done this all for you. And guess what? We're going to tell the real king who overrules this area, King Artaxerxes, the one who sent you here. We're going to tell him that you're trying to be king. And guess what? He's going to come in and wreck you. See, there's political games being played. Never happens today anyway. So I sent him this reply. Nothing like what you are saying is happening. You are just making it up in your head. I love Nehemiah. You're just lying. You're just lying. You're lying. And this is what the opposition will do. The opposition, your accuser, the evil one, will lie about you. He will tell you lies. He will whisper lies into your ears. Lies that you're not worthy. Lies that you're just this, or you're trying to do this. And it's all about you. And you don't care about God. You don't care about what the real king wants. I mean, the accuser, the liar, is going to come to you. And Nehemiah just confronts his accusers and says, you're just making this up in your head. You don't know my heart. And then it says this, they were all trying to frighten us because fear is one of the enemy's great weapons. Thinking their hands will get too weak for the work and it will not be completed. So at the very end, they realize the enemy realizes they're losing something very vital, and that's power and control. And they realize they're losing it. And this is the same thing the Pharisees did to Jesus. They realized they were losing power and control. Maybe things in your life as you grow, those things that are not good for you, they're realizing they're losing their power, control. Maybe it's an addiction. Maybe it's a bad mental attitude about something. Maybe it's something spiritual, and it realizes it's losing its control and power over you. And because it is fighting, clawing, and scratching and doing whatever it can to hold on to you. And it'll tell you lie after lie after lie. And it'll say, come out with me, come out. Come away from the work you're doing. Come out and meet with me. And all it's doing is scheming against you. I love this. I love Nehemiah. It says one day, and this is where it gets even more insidious. It says, one day I went to the house of Shema, son of Delilah, son of Mehethabal, who was shut in at his home. By the way, he was shut in at his home too. All right. He said, let us meet in the house of God inside the temple, and let us close the temple doors, because men are coming to kill you. By night they are coming to kill you. But I said, should a man like me run away? He's like, I'm not running away. Or should someone like me go into the temple to save his life? I will not go. I realized that God had not sent him. So once again, here's a traitor on the inside. So the last final attack will usually come from the inside. Somebody on the inner circle tries to derail Nehemiah. Somebody in his own posse tries to derail his work. Because guess what? He's a traitor. We'll learn that in a minute. He says, I realized that God had not sent him, but that he had prophesied against me because Tobiah and Sanballat had hired him. He's a sellout. He's a Judas. He's a 30 pieces of silver. Even though I don't think Judas did it for the money, but this guy probably did. He said he had been hired to intimidate me so that I would commit a sin by doing this, and then they would give me a bad name to discredit me. So notice what the last attack is. It's attack against your integrity. It's attack against your name, your very name. And this is what the enemy does. Hi, Janie. This is what the enemy does. And so Nehemiah says this to close out. He says, remember Tobiah and Sanballat, my God, because of what they have done. Remember also the prophet Noadiah and how she and the rest of the prophets have been trying to intimidate me. So then it's just almost matter-of-factly. But in verse 15 of chapter 6, it says, so the wall was completed on the 25th of Elul in 52 days. So Nehemiah finishes the work that he had set out to do. And I want you to see what the response is. So remember, Nehemiah pushes through all of the opposition in his life. And you're going to have to do the same. Whenever God wants to do something great in your life, you're going to have to push through all the opposition, okay? To rebuild whatever is broken, whatever has become broken down in your life. If there's anything that's broken down, set about rebuilding it with God's help. Let God's Spirit work in your life to rebuild what has been lost, rebuild what has been broken, but realize the opposition is going to come. Don't get lost in the middle. Keep going and finish well. And here's what happens. Listen to this. When all of our enemies heard about this, that's the rebuilding of the wall, all the surrounding nations were afraid and lost their self-confidence because they realized that this work had been done with the help of our God. Boom! Boom! Isn't that awesome? When the work was finished, the enemies of God lost their confidence, and they realized this work had been done by God. Ooh, that's good. So whatever is happening in your life, let God change you. Let God work with him to see things be rebuilt in your life. And guess what? All the haters, all the naysayers around you, all the critics, guess what they'll do? At some point, they'll have to realize that this work was done by God and that God is the author and perfecter of our faith. And he is the one who remakes things and rebuilds our protection and our pride. And so I pray today for you. And we're going to keep going to Nehemiah the rest of the week. But I want to pray for you that you know that God will rebuild what was broken. Don't listen to the haters. Don't listen to the distractors. God will rebuild what was broken, what was torn down. He will. And he is for you. He is for you. He is with you. He is God who is Emmanuel. He is with you. He is for you. And guess what? He actually likes you. And he loves you. All right. Amen. I almost said Daylight with Dean. Sorry, Dean. No Daylight with Dean. Go watch that. It's cool. It's over at the River New Canaan. Go watch Daylight with Dean. This has been Midday with Mark, number 30. Woohoo! We made it. Number 30. Tune in tomorrow somewhere around noon, and we'll have number 31 as we keep this good work going. Love you all. Be safe. Be wise. Faith over fear. Don't listen to the Sanballats, the Tobias, and the Geshams. Keep moving. Forget the haters. Take care, everybody. Bye.